What seems to be slowing down a little bit in people joining, so I'm going to get us started just to respect people's time. And so thank you guys so much for coming. We're going to go over the results of the job task analysis and the updates to the LARE and what the transition plan is. Feel free to send in questions to the Q&A. We do have the chat open that we will also respond to, but it can be hard to track questions in there. So please use the Q&A for questions. And I have Marissa from our office who's going to help me with those towards the end of the presentation. My name is Rebecca Moden. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for L.A.R.E, and I'm going to go through kind of what the results of our job task analysis were and the impacts to the LARE and the impacts to you and your path to licensure. All right, so what is a job task analysis? A job task analysis is basically a very large scale survey. And so what that does, we use that to survey the profession. So licensed landscape architects. It also includes candidates who are pursuing licensure, as well as students and professors in academia. And they provide information and insight into the knowledge, skills, abilities, and characteristics that are required to be a landscape architect. L.A.R.E does these every 5 to 7 years. In best practices, it really depends on how your profession evolves. So for example, if you're in a technology profession, you may do a job task analysis every year. If you're in a profession that evolves more slowly, a good example would be something like welding. You may do them every 10 years. And so our profession, the sweet spot seems to be about every 5 to 7 years to get good data that indicates how the profession is evolving. The purpose of our job task analysis is specifically to feed the LARE and make sure that the LARE is testing and evaluating applicants against current practice. And it will have a slight lean towards future practice, but typically it's going to be heavily focused on what landscape architects are currently doing. For those of you who may not be aware, we just finished this job task analysis. It was administered starting in January of 2022. It was open for 6 weeks. It was sent to the profession at large. We completed that and had the results in March. We had a committee of licensed landscape architects meet to analyze those results and see how that would impact the LARE and help develop that new LARE blueprint. That was finalized in June, and we finished the final report in August and made the official announcement towards the end of the month, last month. So what's coming? So we've had some content shift. So the content shifted based on kind of project flow and what makes sense. And we tried to structure the exams in a way that you kind of travel through the sections as you would through a project. And so the content that you see on each section kind of goes together and makes sense from the way that you work on a project in your field. All of the future sections will have advanced item types. For those of you who are testing now, sections 1 and 2 currently only have multiple choice and multiple response questions. And sections 3 and 4 have advanced item types, which are drag in place and hotspot items. In the new blueprint, again, that's starting in December of 23, it'll have all 4 item types on all 4 sections of the exam. The sections, as a result of the shifting of content and of the advanced item types, will end up being comparable in length. They will also be comparable in price. We are also working on providing feedback by the subdomain. So the bullets underneath the main headers will provide feedback at that subdomain level. So how does it transition? So if you're currently in the exam, if you've taken and passed section 2, which is currently inventory and analysis, you will get credit for the new inventory analysis and project management. So if you've taken 2, you won't have to retake that inventory section. You will just have credit for that section. If you've taken and passed section 3, then you'll get credit for the planning and design section. And so again, if you've passed section 3, you won't need to take planning and design in the new format. We're going to jump to grading and drainage. If you have completed section 4 of the exam, then you will get credit for grading, drainage, and stormwater management, and you won't need to take that section in the new blueprint. For section 1, which is currently project and construction management, and section 4, the grading, drainage, and construction documentation, you will need to pass both of those sections to get credit for construction documentation and administration. If you haven't passed both of those, you will be required to take construction, documentation, and administration. So what's the timeline for this? So the next 3 administrations, December 22, April 23, and August 23, will all be the current blueprint. December of 2023 will be the new blueprint. So you have the next 3 administrations to navigate through the current blueprint and complete the exam, or take the sections that you want to transition to and then complete in the new blueprint. Registration will probably open up in the next week, so sometime next week, and so we'll be sending out communications for that. So some considerations that we want to make sure that you think about. Exam content doesn't change till December of 23, so use the current blueprint to prepare for the exam. Exam sections can be taken in any order. So if you've passed section 1, you can just start taking section 4. You don't have to worry about 2 and 3 in this interim. If you've passed 1, you should probably focus on 4, and vice versa. If you've passed 4, you should focus on 1. You can take them in any order you want. You need to pass that 1 and 4 in order to get the credit for the construction, documentation, and administration. And then don't take section 1 in August of 2023 if you haven't passed or are not taking section 4, because that's the one section that you really have to take in combination to get credit. So it wouldn't make any sense to start section 1 in August of 2023 if you haven't taken or aren't taking section 4. I'm going to pause really quick right here and answer some questions that I have seen coming in. I only see 3, Marissa, so I think I can read these. So the first question is the current format graduates are not eligible for sections 3 or 4 without 2 years of experience. So eligibility is dependent on your jurisdiction. So some candidates are eligible and some candidates are not. So it's really going to depend on where you're testing as to whether or not you can take sections 3 and 4. If you have a specific question about a jurisdiction, I can try and answer that. Or you can feel free to reach out to our team and they can help you navigate the qualifications for your specific jurisdiction. If you haven't taken any exams, it would be a good idea to start with the second exam first, so I can hopefully avoid taking the first test twice. So your process for identifying the content that you want to take is really dependent on how comfortable you are with the content. So if you're concerned about section 1 and that content and you don't think that you'll be able to pass section 1 and 4 in the next 3 admins, then correct, I would start with section 2 or 3. So it really just depends on where you feel confident. Just understand that you do need to do 1 and 4 in order to get that credit. Let's see. Ooh, sorry, lots of them coming in. To confirm, for someone who hasn't completed any section yet, they should focus on passing 1 and 4 in the next 3 exam terms. So you should focus on taking the content that you're most comfortable with. If you aren't committed to 1 and 4 yet, you don't have to do that, though you should have ample time. We do find that candidates typically complete all the sections in roughly 1.5 attempts on average. So you should have time to finish regardless of whether you're just starting out or whether you're in the middle of the process. But I will reiterate, if you've passed 1 or 4, I would focus on that other section. Says if all sections have been completed before August 2023, does that mean the candidate won't need to take any more exams in the new system? You're correct. So if you finish the L.A.R.E. in its current format, you do not have to take the new format at all. Let's see. Someone asked about the new format for 2023. I'm going to go into that next. So we'll go into that. Someone is asking if even if they've passed the section and they don't pass the other one, are they required to retake it? You are. So if you don't complete the exam in this transition, you will have to take the content that is remaining in the new blueprint. So if you haven't finished both 1 and 4, you will have to retake part of section 1, because section 1 and section 4 are making a combination of construction, documentation, and administration. So you'll have to pass both of those sections to get credit for that new section. Let's see. So pricing is going to change. We don't have those final numbers, but they'll be all fairly comparable in price. So they'll all be really close to the same price for each section. So another question about if you've passed section 1 and you haven't passed section 4, do you need to retake 1? So what you'll need to take is the new section, which is construction, documentation, and administration. So that is section 1 and section 4 content, and also potentially new content that is a result of the JTA. So you will have to take the construction, documentation, and administration, and you will see content that you did see on section 1. So for pricing, again, I don't have pricing. There's another question about pricing. So we don't have exact pricing. So I don't have a lot to add to that one. If you've already passed 1 and 2, should you prioritize section 4? Absolutely. If you have passed 1, prioritize 4, get 4 done, and then you can move on to 3 if you have time, or if you'd like to, but definitely get 4 done. Someone asked if there's a financial incentive to take the format now before you take the new format. I don't have any pricing, so we don't have any financial incentive that I could share with you, but they will be comparable in price. Let's see. I passed 1 through 3. What happens if I don't pass 4 before the change? So someone said they passed 1 through 3. What happens if they don't pass 4? So in that scenario, you've completed sections 1, 2, and 3. Let me see if I can go back. Sorry. Right here. So you've passed 2, 3, and 1. So in the new format, what you're going to have to pass is construction, documentation, and administration, and grading, drainage, and stormwater management. So you would have to pass those 2 sections to complete the exam. So let's see. I'm going to jump onto the blueprint because I see a lot of kind of questions about the new blueprint. So I'd love to give you guys some insight into that. All right, so inventory analysis and project management. So this is what you will get credit for if you pass section 2. It's going to be 90 score items, 10 pretest items. It will have all item types. It will be a 3-hour seat time, and it will consist of project management, inventory and data collection, stakeholder engagement process, physical analysis, and contextual analysis. And then, as I was mentioning, for the subdomain feedback, you would get feedback at that project management section, inventory, data, and collection, stakeholder engagement process. So kind of how you performed in each of those categories is kind of how the feedback will be provided. If you pass section 3, you'll get credit for planning and design. So if you don't complete 3, you'll have to take the new planning and design section. It'll be 85 scored items and 10 pretest items, again, consisting of advanced item types, multiple choice, and multiple response. So all of your item types. It will be a 3-hour seat time. It will include stewardship and design principles, master planning, schematic design, and design development. And again, you'll get feedback in those 4 domains, those 4 subdomains of the exam. For sections 1 and 4, so if you pass sections 1 and 4, you'll get credit for this section. If you don't, you'll need to take this section in the new blueprint. So construction, documentation, and administration. It's 90 score items, 10 pretests, all item types, 3-hour seat time. It'll be construction plans and details, construction specifications and bidding, and construction administration. And you'll get the feedback at each of these subdomains. And then the last section, which you get credit for if you complete section 4, it's going to be 70 scored items and 10 pretests, all item types, 3-hour seat time. It'll be stormwater management, grading and earthwork, and drainage systems. And so you'll get feedback at these subdomains as well. So some of the key takeaways I want to reiterate, and then I'll go back to questions because I see a bunch more. Let's see. So exam content, again, does not change until December 2023. So the blueprint I just showed won't go into effect until December of 2023. So keep using the current blueprint in the orientation guide as you prepare. If you've passed 1, you really need to focus on 4. If you've passed 4, you should focus on 1. Registration for December is opening up next week. Be sure to plan it out, kind of look at what you have going over the next, year, look at the 3 administrations, see where you are in the pipeline, and kind of what you finished, and kind of plan that out for yourself. And then our staff is here to help. So if you have specific questions about your journey or your specific path, be sure to reach out to us, and we will help kind of guide you through that and give you our recommendation of what the best next steps for you are. So let's go back to the chat. And Marissa, I see a bunch, and so hopefully maybe you're kind of monitoring those and you can help me out.
am. Would you be able to go back to the timeline slide again and just remind everyone about that? And then once you do that, maybe also just pull up the transition slide, like the chart.
Oh, let's see. So here's the timeline, and then the chart is right here. So maybe I can, let me try to see if I can switch it so you guys can see both slides.
That's okay. I think if you can just show the timeline and just walk through that real quick again for everyone. And then maybe leave the next one up, because that'll answer a lot of these questions, I think.
Perfect. So registration for December is opening next week. That's the first of your 3 opportunities to finish the current blueprint. And so that will occur in December of 2022. So it's the 5th through the 17th. Then you'll have another chance in April of 2023 to take the current blueprint and finish your path. And then the last administration of the current blueprint will be of August in 2023. So that will be the last opportunity to finish the current blueprint. And then in December 2023, we will launch the new LARE and the new sections. And so that's when you'll transition. And we will be sure to communicate what your sections you've gotten credit for and what sections you need to complete in the new blueprint as well. And so here is the transition chart. So you guys can see that, and then we can go through any other questions.
And can you just explain, because we're also getting some questions in the chat in addition to the Q&A. So as a reminder for everyone, please put all questions in the Q&A. But can you just quickly run through again that the equivalency here for the credit, these sections 1 through 4 will no longer be sections 1 through 4 in December.
Correct.
These are the sections.
That's correct. So there's no numbers or letters in the new naming convention. So it's just the names moving forward. So if you've completed section 2, inventory and analysis, you do not have to take, you will get credit for, and so you don't need to take inventory analysis and project management. If you've completed section 3, design, you will get credit for, and you won't need to take planning and design of the new blueprint. If you have passed section 1 of the current blueprint and section 4, so you have to pass both, you'll get credit for construction, documentation, and administration. If you haven't passed both, you will be required to take that section in its entirety. And then if you pass section 4, you will get credit for grading, drainage, and stormwater management. So if you haven't finished section 4, you will be required to take that section of the new blueprint. So there won't be any more numbers. I actually just got chatted. I did want to let you guys know we will have LARE staff at the ASLA conference in San Francisco. So if you happen to be there, we will also be having another presentation as part of the LARE prep in partnership with ASLA's prep committee. And we'll kind of go over this again and can also answer any questions that you have at that time. And then we will also be available to answer questions in the prep cafe throughout the conference.
We have a couple questions about, will the blueprint and this recording and slides be available after this webinar? Yes, we are recording this webinar, and as soon as we have it up in the next few business days, it will be available on our website and social media, and we'll also be posting the blueprint.
Thanks, Marissa.
Would you be able to speak, Rebecca, to the recommended reading list or any study materials changing? We have quite a few questions coming in about that.
Sure. So the committee met and discussed the recommended reading list. And so at this time, we don't have any updates or changes to that. So the resources that you're currently using will be valid for the future content. And then, sorry, what was the other question? I apologize.
It was study materials and reading materials and reading lessons.
And so as far as study materials go, we are actually working on some practice exams that will be available to candidates for the new format. And so we hope to have those available when we announce registration for the December 2023 exam, so the new format exam. And so those will be available through L.A.R.E via the online system. So you'll also be able to kind of take it in the online format that you would experience at the exam itself.
Can you explained a little bit about anyone who's currently in the process, that they would be aware of the difference between the advanced item types and what they're currently seeing in sections 1 and 2? Can you explain the 4 question types a little bit more?
Absolutely. So the multiple choice is kind of the traditional multiple choice you've ever seen throughout your education. Multiple response is similar, and basically it means that there's more than one correct answer. One thing we also always tell people is that it's more than one in multiple response, but never all. And so those can be presented to you in a couple of ways. It can say choose all that apply, or it'll say choose a specific number. And so it's kind of which are the best answers to that question. If you think back to kind of grade school, it's kind of the old school Roman numerals where it had 1 and 4, 2 and 4. And so it's just a better way, more psychometrically sound way to do that. And so you just choose whichever answers you think are correct. For hotspot, an example would be if you had 4 different sites and the question was asking you to select the appropriate site based on certain parameters, you would click on that site. So you just kind of click on it. Or if you needed to mark an entrance to a parking lot and a retail facility, you would click the most appropriate entrance. And so you just kind of click and a little red X pops up. And that's kind of where you're saying that spot should be marked. And then the other one is called a drag in place. And so in that scenario, you're actually working with elements on the side. We call them tokens. And so it'll be a site plan and there will be these elements on the side. An example would be perhaps a recreational facility that has a building that has bathrooms and maybe a soccer field and a playground and that kind of stuff. And so you would pick the soccer field and put it in the most appropriate place, and you would pick the playground and put it in the most appropriate place and pick the parking lot. So you kind of designate and work within the site. So you pick it up and you pull it across and place it in the most appropriate location on the site plan that you're provided. And you can move them around and move them back and kind of play with it.
Great. And again, just a quick reminder for everyone. Sorry, I think we do have quite a few people joining us a little bit late. Please use that Q&A. We're trying to monitor all questions and be able to get to everyone and not miss it. And so having it in that Q&A is really helpful for us. But Rebecca, can you, when you were just explaining the item types, can you just repeat one more time the never all situation?
Yes. So on multiple responses, it will either say choose a specific number or choose all that apply. In either scenario, the specific number, obviously choose the specific number. If it says choose 3, pick the best 3. If it says choose all that apply, you can know that it's more than one. So it's never one on those types of questions, and it's never all. So if there's 7 options, it's not going to be all 7. If there's 5 options, it's not going to be all 5. So it will be somewhere between 2, if it's 5, and 4. So somewhere between 2 and 4, somewhere between 2 and 6. It's never all of them, and it's never just one.
Great. We have a couple questions about that comment or the note about the feedback by subdomain. Would you be able to give any more context for that?
Yeah, so we're still kind of working out exactly what the most appropriate feedback will be, because we want the feedback to be helpful to you. So basically, we're going to give you how you performed in that subdomain, but we're still working through whether that's how you performed just overall in that subdomain, or how you performed against candidates who were successful, or kind of how you performed against the minimum competency. So we're kind of working through that aspect of it and still kind of scoping that out, but it will be how you performed on that section and kind of just give you some feedback and guidance so that you can identify areas of weakness. So content areas in which you performed not as well, so that maybe you can focus on that content area.
Okay, and we have a couple more questions coming in. I know that we answered them a little bit earlier, but about maybe the overlap of some of the content or how they're changing, where section 4 is sort of applicable to 2 of the sections in the new blueprint moving forward. Maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So section 4 currently covers grading, drainage, and construction documentation. So all of the construction documentation that's in the current section 4 is shifting into the new construction documentation and administration section. And then all of the project and construction management that's currently in section 1 is moving to the new construction documentation and administration. And so because large content from both sections is moving into the new section, that's why you have to complete both in order to get credit. And so the new grading, drainage, and stormwater management will be just that content that was originally on the section 4. So that's kind of why you have to pass that combination.
Excellent. And something we did not touch on in this presentation, but a couple questions are coming in. Is anything changing with the actual functionality of the exam, the test centers, registration processes, anything like that?
Nope, currently everything is staying the same. So the technology aspect of it, it's going to stay the same. It's just content shifting and the utilization of all item types on all sections. So all 4 sections will still be available both at brick and mortar and through online proctoring. You'll have the same tool, access to tools, the online calculator, the online whiteboard. So all of that's going to be consistent. It's just that the content's changing and you're going to have to transition your exams.
Great. I am just still scrolling through all these and trying to kind of align some of them. Maybe while I'm doing that, we have a question. Are the L.A.R.E workshops at the ASLE conference covering the current L.A.R.E blueprint or a combination with the new material?
I am going to go out on a limb and say that they're covering the current content. Yay, Bradley just
Thank you, Bradley.
They are covering the current content. So they are focusing on the current blueprint of the L.A.R.E.
We do have a few questions coming in, and I'm not sure if we even are able to say any or speak to this, since we are encouraging everyone to complete the exams in the timeline that Rebecca did provide. But with regard to financial incentive, if someone was not able to complete a section in time for the transition, or what that could potentially look like. We have quite a few questions.
So yeah, at this time, we don't have any financial incentive to completing it in the current. I mean, obviously the only financial incentive would be to not have to retake a section if you don't pass 1 and 4. But no, we don't have any financial incentive information at this time if you aren't able to finish in the timeline. I did sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I think also about waivers, if someone did complete a section but not both 1 and 4, that kind of thing.
At this time, we don't have any intention of doing that. The 3 administration should give you enough time to finish the transition. I did see a question in the chat from someone that said if they passed 1 and 4 in the current and then took 2 and 3 in the new blueprint, do they get all 4 sections? That is correct. So if you passed 1 and 4 in the current and then took inventory analysis, project management, and planning and design of the new blueprint, then you would have credit for the 4 sections of the L.A.R.E. That is correct.
Perfect. We have a couple questions coming in with specific, I think, about ADA, and I'm not going to mark these as answered live because I think that they're probably better to keep anonymous. But if you could just explain how our ADA process works and what someone might need to do if they do have specific questions about their testing process.
Absolutely. So L.A.R.E does support all ADA accommodations. And so the process is that you would just reach out to our staff. And we would, depending on documentation, can really depend on your situation and what your accommodation you need. And so we can do extra time, you can do double time, you can do a separate room, we have readers. So it really just kind of depends on your situation. And so just reach out to us and we can walk you kind of through that, getting you that accommodation.
Great. We have a couple of questions. I know you quickly touched on it earlier about a December registration opening. And we also have a question about scores being released.
Yes.
Just seeing if there's anything else that I'm missing to add to that.
Sure.
I
The
don't think so.
scores and reg should be next week. I'm going to say our goal is, and Marissa's going to yell at me, my goal is Monday for scores. And then hopefully, ideally, registration will be open at the same time. But it should be Monday. But I'm saying next week because, life happens. But the goal is Monday. And so you should be receiving communication from us on Monday that you can view your scores, and then you can register for the exam. I did see a question. It says, if you pass 1 and 4 by August, does that give you credit for one exam as shown on the screen? So no. So if you pass 1 and 4, 1 and 4 together get you construction, documentation, and administration. 4 all by itself gets you grading, drainage, and stormwater management. So you actually get 2 sections. You get both of those sections. So as an example, let's say you passed just 4, you would still get credit for grading, drainage, and stormwater management of the new blueprint. But you would have to take construction, documentation, and administration because you didn't pass section 1. So 4 actually gets you like 1.5 credit. And so if you pass 1 and 4, you'll have credit for 2 sections of the new blueprint. You'll have construction, documentation, and administration, and you'll have grading, drainage, and stormwater management.
Great. And I think when we started, or in the break, when you answered some questions, you were talking about jurisdiction-specific requirements. And I think we have a couple of questions on that about timeframes to finish the exam, or if there's something that LARE is doing for eligibility to take different sections in different jurisdictions.
So unfortunately, eligibility to take sections of the exam is totally at the jurisdiction level, and it typically falls in within their rules and regulations, so within their laws. So there's not really a lot that we can do at this time about that. We are, as an organization, working in partnership with ASLA and licensure boards with a uniform standard, but that won't, so that there's more consistency about requirements for licensure throughout the country and in Canada, but that won't actually impact, most likely, this situation. So if there are eligibility requirements in your state or province to take specific sections of the exam, those will most likely still be in play throughout this transition.
Great. And so that answers a few of these questions that have come in about timeframes as well. Scores. Sorry, everyone. I'm just trying to scroll through. I know you can't see everything that's been posted until I click on it, but we do have a lot of questions coming in. Do we have a time estimate of when we will have the new pricing available?
Most likely it will be announced when we open registration for December of 2023.
And with the new feedback, will that change anything about what the results from the exam look like? Will it still be a pass-fail? Will there be some additional notation there? Is that what the hope is?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Will the results, with the feedback by subdomain, will the results still be a pass-fail? Will that feedback be where the scores are? How does that work?
So you'll get an overall pass-fail, and then you'll get kind of feedback on performance of a subdomain. So whether you performed kind of well in that area, whether you were kind of in the middle, or whether you were underperforming in that area. And so you'll still get a pass-fail. You won't get like an actual numerical score. You'll get the pass-fail, and then you'll get kind of guidance on areas in which you showed less preparedness, areas of improvement.
Okay. Quick answer, yes, this session is being recorded. Just a reminder for everyone again, we will post that on our website and social media as soon as we have it available within the next few business days. Sorry, we're getting a lot of the questions that I think you just kind of answered, so I'm just trying to look through them all. So just to clarify again, if someone did pass one of our current sections under the current blueprint, and that's in their council record as being passed, those scores are not being removed, eliminated, that credit for those sections carry over.
Correct. Yep. So no, they wouldn't be eliminated.
And if someone did only pass section 1 or section 4, or I guess in this case, section 4, you do get the equivalency for grading, drainage, and stormwater management. But if someone only passed section 1, what would that look like in their council record after the new blueprint?
It would still sit there that you pass section 1, but when you transmit to get your license, you'll actually have to take all 4 sections of the new blueprint. And so it will only send it will send all the passing results to the jurisdiction for licensure, but it will only show that you've completed the LARE when you've actually completed all 4 sections.
All 4 sections of the blueprint as it stands.
The new blueprint.
Okay. Is there new content that has not been tested before under the new blueprint?
No, there's not really any new content. There's expansion. So we saw, for example, grading and drainage and stormwater management as a result of the job task analysis became heavier in weight, which is why it kind of warranted its own section, and for us to be able to test that content at the right level based on the survey. That's kind of gotten elevated. There's stuff about water that kind of came up to the top. There's more, water's already been on the test, but there's more about water, climate resiliency design, water rights, water usage, water preservation. So those types of things are coming up. We've also seen some content go down a little bit. It's still on the test, but it may not be tested as heavily. Contracts, stakeholder engagement type questions. There's still stuff around landscape architects liability. Those types of things will still be on the test. But there's kind of just some shifting in weight is really what we saw this time.
Great. And are there any other content changes being made other than someone's asking besides the format changes of, I guess, the current blueprint into the new one, any other content changes? I don't think so based on what you said.
Yeah, no, it's really just kind of waiting. Yeah, there's not like a bunch. There's stuff that kind of has reduced and stuff that has been elevated, but there's not really something significant that's new.
Okay. And the feedback on subdomains, will that be available regardless if you pass or fail?
No, it will only be available if you fail.
So again, I know we asked this earlier, in terms other than the actual blueprint changing, our processes, the way that the timeline and the way that we process scores, the way that registration occurs, all of that remains the same with this transition.
Yep.
And is there a recommended order for taking any of the exams? I'm going to add to that and say the current or future blueprint.
Yes, there is no recommendation for order. It's really just kind of the content areas that you feel confident taking, that you're most familiar with, and you think are going to be kind of your easy wins, really. And so there's no order to it. There's no hierarchy. You just kind of take it as if you do a lot of grading, drainage, and stormwater management, you may want to start with that section.
Okay, great. And if anyone's chatting in questions, please use the Q&A. I don't want to miss them. And we are trying to align some of the questions together as we ask them out because the session is being recorded.
Someone did question the last transition that we gave 2 years to transition. This year we're only giving 1. We actually only gave 1 year last time. And actually you're getting another administration this time. When we transitioned previously, there were only 2 attempts for each section, and this time there's 3.
Will the content on from sections 2 and 3 change? So if someone did not pass sections 2 or 3 and they are looking to then take inventory analysis and project management or planning and design, will that content change?
Again, it may be weights, right? So there's not enough of a change that you wouldn't get credit from the current format to the new format, but you may see things that are weighted differently. So an area that was maybe 10% before might only be 5%, or maybe it's now 20%. So there might be some changes in the weight of the content, but there wouldn't be significant new content or things like that.
Okay. And so, yes, just to clarify, because we just had 3 kind of back-to-back questions about our processes, PSI is our test administrator. We have online proctoring and in-person testing through PSI. All that is true now, and that will be true with the new blueprint for online proctoring. All 4 sections will be available. It's the timeline for results. Rebecca just touched on that. All of that will remain the same as part of LARE's processes. And someone is asking, it looks like when they went to register probably in August, since December registration is not yet open, that there are in-person exam times outside of the windows that we publish. So please know that any dates for the L.A.R.E. published on LARE's website are what you want to follow and plan your timeline around. We have a question if you could put the blueprint page back up for grading and drainage, but we will be sharing all of that online for everyone. So if you don't mind waiting until we have that full blueprint on our site, which is when the recording will also be available in the next few business days, we'll have that on our website and social media, and we'll also be pushing it on social media to let you know that it's live up there. So you'll be able to go line by line instead of trying to zoom in or pause on Rebecca's face here to go and see what there is to line it up.
I did see a question in the chat that said, is there a number of attempts on a section? So LARE does not have any limitation on how many times you can take an exam. There are some jurisdictions that have timelines as to when you can finish. So you have to finish them within a certain parameter, but that's only a few. And so you would really need to reach out to the staff, the LARE staff, and we can help you with your specific jurisdiction if it has one. But that would be the only limitation on attempts.
Great. And so again, if you have completed any of these sections as of the August 2023 administration, this transition chart applies to you and you get the credit that it looks like on that top box there. So if you passed sections 2, 3, and 4, this transition chart shows you that there is an equivalency for 3 of the 4 sections in the new blueprint. If you were to pass sections 1 and 4 by August or in August of 2023, you do not need to take those sections again. You will get the credit that is on the screen. I'm still scrolling through the Q&A, but someone just put in the chat also. So again, please use that Q&A. Is there any reason why someone would choose to wait until December 2023 to begin any section?
That's a personal decision. I mean, I think it really just depends on how comfortable you are. I think if you're concerned about content, then maybe you would want to focus on specific sections. So for example, if you're concerned about grading and drainage and construction documentation, then maybe you don't take 1 and 4, but you could still take 2 and 3 because those are direct transitions. So if you pass 2, you get credit for the new section. So there's no kind of real issue if you don't pass 2, for example. So it's really just your comfort level. And if you'd rather just wait to not do the transition, that's also an option. So it's just really kind of where you feel comfortable and confident.
Great. And someone, just to clarify again, asked if they have already passed sections 1 and 2, and I'm typing this answer so everyone can see it. if they pass sections 1 and 2, should they focus on 4 before 3? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely, yes. If you pass 1, I highly encourage you to focus on section 4.
Great. So for anyone who may have joined after the first few minutes of this webinar, when Rebecca began actually going into the changes of the LARE, just a reminder that these changes are a result of the job task analysis survey results that was conducted earlier this year. And we will have this recording available in the next few business days on our website if you wanted to revisit those first few minutes where she walked through those results. So I think we have, other than some of the ADA questions or just some suggestions that we've received for us, I think we have covered the open questions in our Q&A.
Excellent.
We can still keep this open if anyone has any additional ones that they wanted to send in. If you chatted it in, or if you feel like we didn't answer your question, that we may have been in the other box where we weren't able to fully monitor both at the same time. So please use that Q&A so we can grab them and share them with everyone. While we're waiting, do you want to remind everyone that we have a practice test online?
Yes, so we have, well, it's not really a
demo exam. Sorry, I said the wrong thing. Sorry, demo.
So we do have a demo exam if you've not taken any section of the exam before, or if you're not familiar with the advanced item types, that demo exam will demonstrate those to you, so you can see those and view those as you kind of go through it and just kind of get familiar with what those look like.
Okay. And so again, just running through this transition here, if you have passed sections 1 and 4 by August of 2023, but have not passed sections 2 or 3, you do not need to retake all 4 sections. You would just need to retake what you're missing.
Yep.
Then we have a question again about the time limits to take the exam. Wow, everything just kind of came in all at once. Sorry. For the demo exam, you can actually find that link on our Prepare for the Exam resources page right on LARE's website. That is always available to you, not just when registration is open. It's under our Take the Exam section on LARE.org. And it's one link. There's no login. You can just click right through that. And so again, there's no time limit that LARE imposes on when you need to complete the exams by, but those are jurisdiction specific. So please check with your licensure board.
Someone asked, construction documentation administration will include project management, or is it being eliminated? So project management is actually going to be an inventory analysis and project management. So that will be that first section on the left there, inventory analysis and project management. That's where you'll see that content. Yes, so someone asked about practice exams. We are working on practice exams to roll out with the new blueprint. And so those will be available for the December 2023 exam. And so you'll be able to get those on our website.
Great. And again, the timing that we've been talking about, LARE does not impose any timing on how long you have to take the 4 sections of the LARE to complete it, but those are jurisdiction specific rules. So please do check there. As for if you passed a section, those will not expire or be removed from your council record when the new blueprint goes into effect. but it will be dependent on the jurisdiction if they are accepted, if there is a timeline or a rolling clock where you are registered.
So someone asked if they have section 4 left after August 2023, do they need to take all 4 sections? So if you have section 4 left, you've finished everything but section 4 in the new blueprint, you will need to take construction, documentation, and administration and grading, drainage, and stormwater management. Those are the 2 sections that you'll need to take of the new blueprint.
Okay. And for everyone who is asking, because we did just get a couple more questions. So the demo exam is under on LARE.org under take the exam, and then it's under prepare for the exam, but I am also sending that link out in the answered questions. But please do check there. It's the same page on CLARB's website where you'll see the orientation guide posted and our recommended reading list. So you'll be able to see right in that yellow box on the top where it says CLARB's demo exam.
Someone had asked if they passed 2 and 3, should they try to take section 4 before December if they only have time to do 1 more exam before the transition? So that would be entirely up to you. If you passed section 4 in the current blueprint, you would get credit for grading, drainage, and stormwater management. You would still be required in the new blueprint, since you didn't pass 1, to take construction, documentation, and administration. And so you will see some content that you saw in section 4 on that new section. Some might consider that an advantage, some might consider that annoying. So it's really kind of up to you.
Great.
Someone asked if you only have section 1 left to take in December of 23, what section do you need to take? You need to take construction, documentation, and administration. If you did not pass 1, you will need to take construction, documentation, and administration. The new blueprint, sorry, go ahead.
No, you answer that, please.
The new blueprint starts December 2023. So you have the current blueprint for this December 2022, April 2023, and August 2023. That's all the current blueprint. That's the final administration. August 2023 is the final administration of the current blueprint, and the new blueprint starts in December of 2023. Someone asked if you started the exam in one state, passed 1, and then moved to another state, which jurisdiction should you follow? That depends on where you want to get licensed. So if you're pursuing licensure in that new state, I would follow that new state's requirements. And so depending on what state it is, that can vary. So you would need to, you're welcome to reach out to us, and we can help kind of walk you through transitioning to a new jurisdiction.
Absolutely. And someone just noted something just sent to us in the chat about the register for the exam button is no longer there. That's correct. Registration for December is not yet open. We are looking at early next week for having registration open for the December 2022 administration under the current blueprint, which would be sections 1, sections 2, 3, and 4, not the chart that was just on the screen.
So someone said that they found some of the questions for section 2 to be American focused as it relates to governing bodies. Is there an email to send feedback about L.A.R.E questions in general? So the current person you would email is actually out on maternity. So you're welcome to email me directly if you have feedback about L.A.R.E content, and I can make sure that's shared with the committee. But just so you are aware, the committee is made up of licensed landscape architects throughout the United States and Canada. So we have representation from both countries to try and ensure that the content is relevant and understandable in both jurisdictions or both countries. And so my email is R for Rebecca. Last name is Moden. So Mary, Oscar, David, Echo, Nancy @LARE.org. And if you get a bounce back, just hit it to info and say, hey, Rebecca, and they will make sure I get it.
And that's actually a good reminder for everyone on this call. Info@LARE.org is a real and live email address. LARE staff is checking that every minute that we are open during regular business hours. So please do feel free to contact us there. Please do feel free to call us. But just know we do get some questions sometimes about is info real? Info@LARE.org is a real person behind there. We are checking that and answering questions and directing them where they need to go.
Okay, so I want to go back a slide. So I saw another question about if you've taken section 2 before December, but not section 3, would you take the new section 3? Okay, so there's not a new section 3. So like, I don't want people to get confused and think that they're in like some type of order. So if you get section 2 finished, you'll get credit for inventory analysis and project management. If you took and passed section 3, you'll get credit for planning and design, regardless of anything else. If you passed a section like that, then you get credit. The only sections that kind of are a combination are the section 1 and section 4. That's for construction, documentation, and administration. You have to pass both of those sections to get credit for that one specific section. So it's not like a holistic thing. It's section by section. So if you pass current 2, you get inventory and you don't have to take that section. And then you just take the other 3 remaining sections, if that kind of makes sense.
Great. And I think we have probably time, because we're at 3 o'clock now, for the final question that came in. When is the exam offered? Will the exam be offered more frequently under the new format?
Currently, it's going to be the same. It'll be the same 3 admins: December, April, and August. So someone asked, why did we decide to use all format types for all 4 sections, and does that make the new exam sections harder? So our questions tend to perform, when you write items for an exam, you want a certain level of difficulty and a certain level of what they call discrimination. And so it really kind of a high performing item, so a high performing question is within a threshold of difficulty. So it's not like super hard and it's not super easy. So everybody getting it right is not very helpful. Everybody getting it wrong is not very helpful. So that's not a good item. And then we also look for something called discrimination. So discrimination means that candidates who pass get it correct and candidates who fail get it wrong. If you have it reversed, then there's kind of this indication that there's something wrong with the item itself. And so those are the kind of statistics that you look for regardless of item type. So it wouldn't necessarily make the exam more difficult. And one of the reasons we introduced the new item types is sometimes it's actually easier for us to assess content through advanced item types, and it's simpler when we can do it that way. And we've also found that it seems like the candidates tend to like the advanced item types because they're more similar to what you do, right? You're interacting with a site and you're looking at site plans, and so it's just kind of a new opportunity for us to test the content in a more defensible way that seems familiar. So that was kind of why the committee kind of leaned towards having advanced item types on all of them. And so we really look at the content and say which content makes sense to be in a drag and place or in a hotspot or in a multiple response or multiple choice, and that's kind of how it's divided up. Someone had asked about the break feature and not being able to go back to previous questions. That process will remain the same. So if you take a break during the exam, you need to review and finalize your answers before you take that break, because those items will be locked when you return. Well, thanks everybody. And again, if you do have specific questions about accommodations or things like that, feel free to reach out to me and I can walk you through what's available and what that process is. Have a wonderful day. Thank you again.